Good morning and welcome. I'm Chancellor Alexander Cartwright, and I'm really thrilled to welcome all of you here to recognize an exciting gift to our great university. It's certainly already been an exciting first week of classes with our students back on campus. The energy they bring is just special, makes us recognize why we're here as educators, and really allows us to see what we can do to impact society. I recently celebrated 2 years here as Chancellor, and each year I learn more and more why this place is so special and why we can do so many great things. It's a reminder certainly of what it means to be the flagship institution in this state and all of the things that we are capable of and what we have to offer to the world. And we're celebrating a lot. We have another record-breaking year of giving. We have an increase in student enrollment among our freshmen and also our graduate students. And we actually have, this past year, a 23% increase in research awards. So thank you to all of those people at Mizzou that have made that possible. And today we're honoring two of our loyal supporters who are such an important part of our journey, Ron and Kathy Boain. Ron and Kathy are tremendous advocates of our mission as a flagship research AAU institution. In fact, they are such devoted tigers that when they retired in 2016, they moved to Missouri all the way from California to call Columbia their new home. Ron's love for Mizzou goes back to his father, Walter Boain, who played football here under the legendary coach, Don Farreau. So that's pretty remarkable. And growing up with such a strong tie to the university, Ron came to Mizzou as a freshman in 1961, where he then earned both his bachelor's and master's degree in physics. That education helped launch his incredible career in America's space program. In 1969, 2 years after he completed his master's degree, Ron worked on the Apollo program and had a hand in the first manned mission to the moon. Over the course of the next 5 decades, his career took him all over the country. He worked at what is now the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center, the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab, and the NASA headquarters. And in 2007, Ron was awarded the Exceptional Achievement Medal from NASA. That is really remarkable. Even with such an extraordinary career that took Ron's work, literally, out of the world, Mizzou always remained in his heart. The same year that Ron supported the first manned mission to the moon, he also made his first gift of $5 to our physics program. 50 years of giving later, Ron and Kathy continue to be some of our most loyal donors. 50 years of giving to Mizzou. How remarkable is that? Thank you. Ron and Kathy's commitment have been integral to our growth as one of America's leading research universities. They have helped our Department of Physics and Astronomy grow into a world-class program. And I have to tell you, it's very special for me to be here today because, well, for one thing, I've worked a lot with physicists in my own research. And secondly, my first job, one of the first jobs that I had at the university was actually in a physics laboratory in Van Allen Hall, for those of you who know who Van Allen is. And it was remarkable to actually get on an elevator with Van Allen going up to the floor where I worked, because his office was on the same floor. And we worked on equipment that was being used in the space program. And that equipment went out into space, and signals came back, and those signals were processed by some of the things that I worked on. So this is really remarkable opportunity to see it come back and be part of an announcement by such a remarkable person who played an incredible role across all of the things that we want to do with NASA, with space, combining physics, making new things, new discoveries. So thank you again, Ron, for being part of this university. We're so proud of you. And with that, today, I am thrilled to recognize both of you once more for a remarkable contribution to our scientific future. A $1.28 million gift to support the Department of Physics and Astronomy in the College of Arts and Science. Thank you. This gift will support the department in three transformational ways. First, it will establish the Ronald J. Boain and Catherine J. Rangel Boain Endowment Fund, which will provide professional development opportunities for undergraduate and graduate students through the Boain's estate. Second, it will support the Boain PhD Dissertation Award in Physics to annually recognize the best dissertation in physics. And lastly, through the Boain PhD Student Travel Fund, the gift will provide more hands-on learning opportunities for doctoral students, such as conference travel and research collaboration. Ron and Kathy, on behalf of the University of Missouri, I want to thank you for your incredible generosity and vision. Thank you. None of the things that we're trying to accomplish would be happening here at Mizzou if it wasn't for dedication of people like you. And I am confident that your support of our remarkable students will make a lasting impact, not only to our university, but also to the world. Maybe it'll lead to Mizzou's next Nobel Prize. We hope so. Thank you both again for everything you have done for our university and our students over the years. I am honored you are part of the Mizzou family. Now I would like to welcome up our incredible Dean of our College of Arts and Science, Pat Oker, to say a few words.
Thank you, Chancellor Cartwright, and welcome to all of you. We're delighted that you're here. A special welcome to Ron and Kathy. This is just such a delight. A lot has been said and will continue to be said about Ron's tremendous accomplishments. From a small town of Eureka, Missouri, to physics, astronomy, astrophysics, classes in this very building, to NASA, to the moon, your story, Ron, is one of immense pride for all of us in the College of Arts and Science. Many of you heard me say some parts of this before, but one of the things I'm always most proud of with that I most love about the College of Arts and Science is we are the college where we ask very basic, essential questions that we do not know the answers to. Physics is a fabulous example of this because they ask fundamental questions about the nature of matter and energy, and they do not know the answers to those questions, and they don't know where things lead. But we do know, actually, when we look at a career, in the long term, we can see fundamental questions then get answered and lead to cell phones and space exploration and things that no one would have imagined when we first started the work. So I love this, Ron, your story about, because I think it represents the really fundamental heart of what we do here in the College of Arts and Science. And so I'm going to remember this, because when we think about questions that we don't know the answer to and we don't know where they're going to lead, your story is a reminder that sometimes they will lead to the moon. That's a good place. So the Chancellor asked me to say some remarks about the impact of this gift on the college. And when I thought about that question, I was reminded of a conversation that I actually had with people really at the very opposite side of the spectrum of a student's story. And that was a few weeks ago, I spoke with some brand new recruiters who are recruiting to the University of Missouri. And I had like a few minutes to tell them, what should we tell prospective students about the College of Arts and Science? And I thought about those when I was preparing for today. So I had a very short time to talk. And what I told them, really, I said, three things I want you to tell to prospective students and their parents about the College of Arts and Science. Number one, we really emphasize helping students learn how to think, not what to think, right? So you'll learn in a discipline of how to think like a physicist. There is a way. You learn how to think like an economist, like an English major. So learn how to think, but never what to think. Secondly, I told them we're a college where we are focused on thinking and doing. So we have lots of hands-on experiences. And again, physics is a great example of this, where we have simulations in classrooms across disciplines. We have undergraduate research. We have internships, connections with industry. So we think and do. And the third thing I wanted to tell prospective students is we prepare students for careers, including careers that do not yet exist. And Ron, your story demonstrates that perfectly. If I had a chance to give those remarks again to those recruiters, I might just say, "Let me tell you this story about Ron Boain." It would be a great example. And so today, as we celebrate the wonderful generosity of Ron and Kathy, I am reminded that their legacy is to ensure that those three priorities that I talked about, which are not new, there's nothing unique to me about that. Those have been going on in the College of Arts and Science for a very long time. They will continue for many more generations. So what does this mean? What does this gift mean for the College of Arts and Science? It means that a physics major will be able to devote a summer to an internship without worrying about having to earn a paycheck. It means that an astronomy student will get to present original hands-on research at a professional conference. It means a graduate student will be recognized for exceptional dissertation research, the impact of which we will not yet know. But 50 years from now, somebody will get to celebrate that. It means students learning from external speakers will broaden their perspective. It means students understanding all of the exciting career possibilities that a degree in physics and astronomy will offer. It means transforming lives. That's really what it comes down to. So thank you, Ron and Kathy, for transforming lives in the College of Arts and Science. I would now like to introduce Sashi Satpathy, the Curator's Distinguished Professor of Physics and Chair of the Department of Physics and Astronomy, so that he can say a few words about the impact on the department. But let us again say thank you, Ron and Kathy.
Thank you again, Ron and Kathy, on behalf of the Physics department, the faculty, and the students. We have no idea how much impact you will make to this department. So I want to say a few things about physics as a discipline, and then I would go on to say, what we do in this department a little bit, and then the impact of Ron's gift. So physics is a discipline that forms the foundation of modern life, in one sentence. An example is the discovery of the semiconductor transistor that Pat mentioned a little bit about in 1947 by Boain, Brattain, and Shockley. That led to a Nobel Prize for them. And that is the essence of the science that goes into everything you can think of. The cell phone, the computer, any kind of electronics you can think of, that semiconductor chips are the basis of it. Now, when it was discovered in 1947, I don't think they even themselves realized how much impact it would have on life. Now it touches everybody's life, literally. Okay, you have to have your thumb on the cell phone. So now air travel, there are many examples I can give. Let me give you one more example. So air travel is based on control and command system. And for that you also need the semiconductor chips. Without that, you cannot have your GPS, you cannot have anything. So it's a very important discipline, and sometimes you don't recognize the value of what comes out of it right now, but 50 years, 100 years down the road, that it makes a paradigm shift in the humankind. Now, we in this physics department teach a variety of courses that enable students to work in a variety of disciplines: biophysics, condensed matter physics, what am I leaving out? Astronomy, astrophysics, and things like that. We still are not able to cover a lot more things, but in addition, physicists like both Chancellor Cartwright and Dean Oker said that it allows you to think in a certain way, and not necessarily, a physicist is valued in many disciplines. For example, financial engineering, financial analysis. My last PhD student does option trading analysis for a bank. in Chicago, Monte Carlo analysis and differential equations. That's what they learned here, and then they learned how to solve the problems. So it not just teaches you how to be a physicist, the physics has value for many disciplines, industry, government labs, and that's where our students go. I want to mention that there is, in the future, there's going to be more and more demand for the physicists, not less. Physics is not done, although it always looks that way to the physicists that we have solved all the problems, right? But you think about new and new things, and things are going to happen in the future. So I want to give a couple of examples. For example, I cite the example of the two of the world's richest men, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon. So they are both planning near-term missions to the moon and beyond. So that will require a great many people who are trained in celestial mechanics, planetary science, space physics, and stuff like that. So for which the physics education can be used as a means of entry into those disciplines. So there are plenty of opportunities in advancing technologies, and a degree of physics gives you access to all those. So it's much beyond what you have learned in the classroom, and Ron is, of course, a perfect example, of going into and doing a lot of stuff from the courses he took. So now Chancellor Cartwright, sorry, okay, so mentioned about the estate gift. But there are two other funds that were mentioned by both you and Pat. Those funds are actually already in. So the Boain Dissertation Award Fund and the Boain Travel Fund, they actually started last year. And we have, this is separate from what you mentioned. So already Ron and Kathy, they have a agreement to provide funds for that for the next 10 years. And in fact, the first dissertation award was given last year to 2 students of the department, and the travel award will be given this year. So anyways, we are grateful to the Boains for all these, and of course we are grateful for your financial gift, but more importantly, for Ron's time. Ever since he has moved to Columbia, so he is engaged deeply in the affairs of the department, and he gives from time to time good advices. And he has promised that secretly he will visit our observatory and tell me if it's going well or not. So thank you for that. So he already have some input from him. So people, each and go right there, and Sarah, I think the people who are taking care of that, pay attention. I didn't tell you that before, but anyway, so okay, so at the time of Mizzou's, let's see here. I want to mention a little bit about Ron coming to Mizzou here. So okay, anyway, so the impact of the gift is tremendous, like it was already mentioned, so I don't want to repeat that. So I would like to ask Ron to say a few words, but before that I would like to say a few things about himself and his time in Mizzou. So as Chancellor mentioned, he got his BS in 1965 from the Department of Physics and MS in 1967. And after joining Mizzou, he immediately gravitated, pun intended, towards astronomy and astrophysics. And he took all the courses that are offered in the department at that time, all the courses in physics, in astronomy and astrophysics. And he tells me that the single course that jump-started his career is a course entitled Solar System Physics that was taught by Professor Terry Edwards. I don't know, some of you remember him, I certainly remember him. He was a no-nonsense teacher, he was very serious, but he knew his stuff, and he was liked by the students. He retired just around when I came in, like 1990s or something like that. So when Ron was here, he served as a student astronomer in the original Laws Observatory, which was near our football stadium those days. So So, and people used to come, students used to come, public used to come with their children to this observatory. And a practice that we still continue to date. So every Wednesday when the night is clear, we have our observatory. There are a lot of people come in, and so that continues to this date. So after graduation, Ron started his career with the Boeing company, and after a few years, he moved on to the prestigious Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California, starting in 1975. So after more than 35 years there, he retired, and he has already moved to here. So during his career, he has received many awards and honors, and already Chancellor Cartwright already mentioned about the prestigious NASA Exceptional Achievement Medal, which is a big deal for his work. And that was given for his work on formation flying in 2007. A second one I would like to mention is a seminal paper that he wrote on ABCs of Sun-synchronous orbit mission design. It's a highly influential paper. People talk about awards, but about paper. So that's a very highly influential paper published by the American Astronautical Society, very influential paper. Okay, so we are very fortunate to have Ron and Kathy here in Colombia, and I really appreciate more than you can understand your engagement with the department and giving me advice from time to time. We probably have lunch once a year or something like that, and he feels free to send me email and just come down to my office. It's really great. I mean, I really appreciate that. Somebody kind of looking over your shoulders and and kind of doing things. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ron.
Well, where do I begin? So much has been said. I hope I can live up to it. Well, first of all, let me say that I thank all of you for being here, and I want to comment that that I stand here today before you with a touch of pride and a deeper sense of appreciation that the university has seen fit to acknowledge this gift to the Physics and Astronomy department. Now that I'm semi-retired, more retired than not retired, I am able to seriously contemplate how I should deploy my estate in the years ahead. I've decided that a portion of that estate should be given back to that entity, that institution, which enabled my career and my life. And before we go any further, let me say that my loving wife, Catherine, has been a party to this decision and is fully supportive, even though she was born and raised and educated in California. We won't hold that against her. She understands my feelings on this issue, and I truly thank her for her support in this matter. To put it simply, the time has come for me to repay the university for all it's given to me, a foundational education that has enabled me to succeed. And now let me say a few things about myself that haven't already been said that might surprise you. I'm a native Missourian, born in St. Louis County 75 years ago. I grew up in a rural community that was about 30 miles southwest of St. Louis. The nearest village was Ellisville, for those of you that know Missouri, which is now, 70 years later, has become a suburb of the greater St. Louis metropolitan area. My family was of modest means. My father commuted daily to a laboring job in the St. Louis area. When I was a boy, I joined the Boy Scouts, and at summer camp one year, I became exposed to astronomy and quickly became fascinated with the stars and planets. Our little house near Ellisville was far enough removed from the bright city lights that it provided a near-perfect location for observing the night sky with a small telescope and binoculars. My interest in astronomy peaked at an early age. And over the years, my knowledge of astronomy grew such that by the time I went to high school, I was quite the science nerd for that era. As it turns out, being an astronomy nerd at that time was okay, because the launching of Sputnik in 1957 gave me cover, with everyone looking at the stars and trying to catch a glimpse of the Earth's first artificial satellite. As Chancellor Cartwright mentioned, my father was a Mizzou person who played football for Don Farrow. His experiences and memories of his days at Mizzou were a principal factor in preordaining that I should go to MU. Another important factor, to be sure, was that he thought he could afford it. To that end, we came to Columbia late in the summer of 1961 in order to get me registered and to find an off-campus apartment. He could not afford to put me up in campus housing. Coincidentally, my father had my sister's future at Mizzou to think about as well. She followed me by a couple of years and also graduated. So I'm proud to say that the Boain family is a legacy family at Mizzou. In September of 1961, I began attending classes with the intent of studying physics and astronomy, much to my father's surprise and perhaps dismay. To be sure, my fondest memories of my youth are as a student at Mizzou. And even though the physics curriculum was not an easy one for me, I persevered and finished my BS degree in '65. And as Sashi has mentioned, I also finished my master's degree in '67 and was qualified to pursue a PhD degree. However, circumstances, namely a lack of money, forced me to pursue a career in the aerospace industry. And fortunately, at that time, job opportunities in aerospace were plentiful. Thinking back, the one amazing thing about my career is that just 24 months after graduating, I was living in Houston, Texas, doing contingency analysis for Apollo 11. This, for me, was an amazing experience, and although my role was, in comparison to the enormity of the whole effort, was very small. Nonetheless, my knowledge of physics in the form of celestial mechanics became my means of ensuring the mission's success. In 1975, I was offered a job at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, and moved there. Over the next 40 plus years, I exchanged ideas and worked with some of the world's brightest minds in the space exploration and aerospace fields, both at JPL and at Caltech. As an aside here, I would point out that for those of you uninformed about the relationship between JPL and Caltech, the California Institute of Technology manages the Jet Propulsion Laboratory under a contract to NASA. And all JPL employees are in fact Caltech employees that do not work directly for NASA. During the 40 years, I served as a group supervisor, a detailee assigned to NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., a project manager, a program manager, a project system engineer, and a chief engineer. As has been mentioned, I am a recipient of the Exceptional Achievement Medal for work I did on the CloudSat mission, which, by the way, is still operating in Earth orbit. I have traveled the world around for NASA: France, Japan, Germany, the Netherlands, the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union, Spain, and Argentina. I've spent time on countdown consoles for 3 separate rocket launches of JPL missions. All in all, I have had a glorious career, and I loved every minute. Enough about the career. Let me talk to you now about my final topic, and that is why I'm making this gift. The part of the story begins with my early experiences and exposures to the work environment at JPL and Caltech. Caltech has a renowned physics department. So much so that my fellow JPL employees, especially those who had graduated from Caltech, used to have a little saying, said half in jest, but with a seriousness underneath that made it a guiding principle about life and the universe. That saying, if it ain't physics, it ain't. When I first heard this, I thought and reacted as if it were a bit arrogant and presumptuous. But as time has gone by, this little saying has become almost an incantation. Over the years, and especially more recently, I began to think the veracity of the saying was in a more positive way. This opinion began to crystallize when I became a member of the physics leaders here at Mizzou a few years back. It was at that time that I became exposed to and aware of how broad and diversified the field of physics had become. The recently identified subdisciplines within the field has expanded such that the list of usual topics had stretched far beyond what I had ever imagined when I was a student or even a JPL employee. You know that there is now a subdiscipline within physics called biophysics. When I was a physics student, the mixing of physics and biology studies would have been unimaginable, unthinkable. Back then, physics was about waves and particles, gravity and electromagnetism, black holes and galaxies, and it was not about cells, protein transport mechanisms, amino acid partitioning, and lipid membranes. Not so anymore. As I have sat through talks given by Mizzou physics students who use these words like I might use the words free return trajectory. And there are a host of other similar physics subdisciplines. I cite as examples taken from the AATP's recent Career Finder listing for physics opportunities the following: therapeutic medical physics, physics of biological function, structural biochemistry. These are the new wave of physics careers. The point is that physics is a fundamental science, which at some level underpins and is the foundation for all scientific inquiries. I've come to see the deeper meaning in that seemingly pompous adage, if it ain't physics, it ain't. Physics at some level is about everything in the physical world. It is therefore my heartfelt conviction that a strong physics department is important and essential to a strong university. My endowment speaks to my commitment to make the physics and astronomy department at Mizzou stronger and better. I hope you will join me in that commitment. Oh yes, one parting shot. We all know and have talked about here that Mizzou acquired its first Nobel laureate, Professor George Smith, for his studies in chemistry. My challenge to you, Sashi, and the department: is it too much to imagine, too much to dream, too much to strive for some physicist from Mizzou to become our first Nobel laureate in physics, perhaps even in biophysics? Thank you.
I'm going to answer that call. You knew I wasn't. It is not too much to imagine. So let us do that. Please join me in, there are refreshments, so please join us for a small reception afterwards where we can thank Ron and Kathy informally. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you.